Hello, we're back. It's kind of awkward almost. We've had some people email us and send us messages requesting a video for we've been off YouTube for a few months, and we appreciate so much your loyalty, if I can say it that way, or wanting to watch our channel. We've talked about YouTube a lot. We just literally have had no time.
Busy, but we're fine.
Yep.
We're doing well in every way, shape, and form that we can think of, I guess, to talk about that. But.
Yep. So today happened to be a blizzard day, and so it's miserable to go outside. We're having like the north and south push. Today it's a little bit of a warm up, but we're getting snow, and we've had like 60-mile-an-hour winds, so you just can't see or do anything.
And we're heading to minus...
We're supposed to go through an Arctic thing where we're going to be like 20 to 30 below for about 5 or 6 nights. Our lows will be that.
So no fun.
No.
So it's perfect time to do video. We're mostly done with taxes, I think. So
yep,
we're just our section of it.
We're catching up with some of the things that that we have to do in the wintertime. But anyway, we wanted to do a video on a topic on...
Is Watchtower disguising an apostate? Now, we ask this question because as Christians, we're well aware of 1 Peter 2:21 that tells Christians, Christ suffered for you, leaving you a model for you to follow closely in his steps.
But is Watchtower encouraging the opposite by disguising an apostate?
And for clarification, we're going to be referring to apostate as defined by Watchtower, meaning that anyone who doesn't agree with everything that God's organization says, no matter whether or not it's correct or isn't correct, that's an apostate to them. So to start off, let's go to John 4. This account is well known as the woman at the well, and Watchtower uses these verses a lot. But we're going to key in on something that they never seem to talk too much about. So let's read the entirety of John 4, and we're going to start in 7 and go through 27, just so you know that we're not taking anything out of the context there.
And I'm just going to read out of my New World Translation, the Reference Bible, because that's what I'm familiar with. And so don't come for me. I mean, we've got lots of different Bibles on the shelf behind us, and we could probably pick something else. But that's, for the sake of the video, we're just going to use this. So it starts in 7. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink," for his disciples had gone off into the city to buy foodstuffs. Therefore the Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, despite being a Jew, ask me for a drink when I'm a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." In answer, Jesus said to her, "If you had known the free gift of God, and who it is that says to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." She said to him, "Sir, you have not even a bucket for drawing water, and the well is deep. From what source, therefore, do you have this living water? You are not greater than our forefather Jacob, who gave us the well, and who himself, together with his sons and his cattle, drank out of it, are you?" In answer, Jesus said to her, "Everyone drinking from this water will get thirsty again. Whoever drinks from the water that I will give him will never get thirsty at all, but the water that I will give him will become in him a fountain of water bubbling up to impart everlasting life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water, so that I may neither thirst nor keep coming over to this place to draw water." How far do I read?
27.
Okay. He said to her, "Go, call your husband and come to this place." In answer, the woman said, "I do not have a husband." Jesus said to her, "You said well, 'A husband I do not have,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. This you have said truthfully." The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive you are a prophet. Our forefathers worshipped in this mountain, but you people say that in Jerusalem is the place where persons ought to worship." Jesus said to her, "Believe me, woman, the hour is coming when neither in this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you people worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, because salvation originates with the Jews. Nevertheless, the hour is coming, and it is now, when the true worshippers will worship the Father with spirit and truth. For indeed, the Father is looking for such like ones to worship him. God is a spirit, and those worshiping him must worship with spirit and truth. The woman said to him, I know that Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. Whenever that one arrives, he will declare all things to us openly. Jesus said to her, I who am speaking to you am he. Now at this point, his disciples arrived, and they began to wonder because he was speaking with a woman. Of course, no one said, What are you looking for? Or why do you talk with her?
So let's recap here. First, notice John 4:7 and who she is.
She's a woman from Samaria.
Now, Watchtower often likes to frame this in the context of the world in general.
You mean like Jesus spoke to worldly people, unlike the Pharisees, so we should too?
Right. But what Watchtower doesn't talk about is who the Samaritans actually were and why the Pharisees shunned them. If we key in on John 4:20, we get a big clue of who the Samaritans were. You want to read that again?
20. Our forefathers worshipped in this mountain, but you people say that in Jerusalem is the place where persons ought to worship.
Now, this is interesting because she before talks about a similarity they have about Jacob, their forefather, as well. Now, her question is very specific, though, and it's directly tied to why the Pharisees shunned the Samaritans. And Watchtower never talks about this.
In fact, they don't even reference it in the footnotes here.
Yeah, that's a good point. But to understand the imperative context of her question, we have to go back to the account in 1 Kings 12. Now, you can read this whole account for yourself to get the context, but the gist of it is, Solomon has died, so his son Rehoboam becomes king. Jeroboam, representing the people, comes to him and says, and when I say the people, I mean the 10-tribe kingdom, comes to him and says, stop the oppression your father Solomon put on us, and we'll continue to serve you as king. Rehoboam then gets opposing advice from older men and younger men. They disagree with one another on how to handle the situation. And Rehoboam famously replies that he's going to be more oppressive than his father. So Watchtower breezes over this whole account except for what we just briefly reviewed here in verses 5 through 11, where they frame it all up to tell you that you need to listen to their authority as elders.
And ironically, they ignore the whole point that those verses are about the oppression of those in authority.
Exactly. And maybe we can talk about this in detail another time, because it really does mirror how Watchtower treats every one of us today. And there are a lot of lessons to be learned in how we respond. But to keep on point about who the Samaritans were, let's just go over it quickly by picking up in verse 16. And if you'd read 16 and 17.
When all Israel got to see that the king had not listened to them, then the people replied to the king, saying, What share do we have with David? And there is no inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your gods, O Israel. Now see to your own house, O David. With that, Israel began to go to their tents. As for the sons of Israel that were dwelling in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam continued to reign over them.
So again, we see, just like we mentioned before, when the king says he's going to be more oppressive on them, they had a reply that's not too unlike what many XJWs have done. This abuse shows that God is not running this organization, so then they go and they search out other forms of worship. And let's see where that leads them, or at least leads many of them. If we pick up in verse 26 and read through verse 31.
And Jeroboam began to say in his heart, Now the kingdom will return to the house of David. If this people continues going up to render sacrifices in the house of Jehovah in Jerusalem, the heart of this people will also be bound to return to their Lord, Rehoboam the king of Judah, and they will certainly kill me and return to Rehoboam the king of Judah. Consequently, the king took counsel and made 2 golden calves and said to the people, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Here is your God, O Israel, that brought you up out of the land of Egypt. Then he placed the one in Bethel and the other he put in Dan. And this thing came to be a cause for sin, and the people began to go before the one as far as Dan. And he began to make a house of high places, and to make priests from the people in general, who did not happen to be of the sons of Levi.
So again, there's lots that we could go into here another time. But for the point of this discussion, we see that at Jeroboam's urging, they stopped the required sacrifices in Jerusalem and began worshiping in the high places, thereby becoming apostates because they weren't going to Jerusalem anymore. Kind of what Jesus talked about in his statement to the woman at the well. So we fast forward to that time, and this is who Jesus is talking to and why the Samaritan woman asked the question in John 4:20. So if we read that again.
Our forefathers worshipped in this mountain, but you people say that in Jerusalem is the place where persons ought to worship.
So because of the abusive oppression in God's organization, the 10-tribe kingdom rejects that abuse as being ungodly, rightly so, and then others set up their own high places of worship, which leads many into apostasy. And that's why we get the pretext of this account in John 4:9. If we go back again and read that real quick.
Therefore the Samaritan woman said to him, How is it that you, despite being a Jew, ask me for a drink when I am a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans.
So in effect, she is saying to Jesus, to you, I'm an apostate. What are you talking to me for?
Again, Watchtower likes to apply this to how they treat worldly people, but Samaritans weren't just some random nationality. No wonder they don't talk about who this woman actually is. It flies in the face of how they treat people they label as apostates.
And this sheds light on the religious leaders' views, and likewise the Israelites. Samaritans were apostate, and therefore Israelites would have no dealings with them, as the scripture says. Now, contrast that with Jesus, who offered her life-giving water despite being an apostate and having an obvious sinful past. But Jesus made his view of these apostates more clear in an illustration Jesus gave about the elders in Luke 10:25-37, if we could read that. That's Luke 10:25, 25-37.
Now look, a certain man versed in the law rose up to test him out and said, Teacher, by doing what shall I inherit everlasting life? He said to him, What is written in the law? How do you read? In answer he said, You must love Jehovah your God with your whole heart, and with your whole soul, and with your whole strength, and with your whole mind, and your neighbor as yourself. He said to him, You answered correctly. Keep on doing this, and you will get life. But wanting to prove himself righteous, the man said to Jesus, Who really is my neighbor? In reply, Jesus said, A certain man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among robbers, who both stripped him and inflicted blows and went off, leaving him half dead. Now by coincidence, a certain priest was going down over the road, but when he saw him, he went by on the opposite side. Likewise, a Levite also, when he got down to the place and saw him, went by on the opposite side. But a certain Samaritan traveling the road came upon him, and at seeing him, he was moved with pity. So he approached him and bound up his wounds, pouring oil and wine upon them. Then he mounted him upon his own beast and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, Take care of him, and whatever you spend besides this, I will repay you when I come back here. Who of these 3 seems to you to have made himself neighbor to the man that fell among the robbers? He said, The one that acted mercifully toward him. Jesus then said to him, Go your way and be doing the same yourself.
So in Jesus' illustration here, he perfectly chose to point out that this apostate acted more godly than 2 high-positioned elders did. a deliberate sting aimed at self-righteous elders of God's organization.
Someone might say, yeah, but when Jesus sent out the disciples, he told them, avoid Samaritan cities.
And it's true that the Israelites had a more correct understanding than Samaritans. I mean, Jesus even admits that when he's talking to the woman at the well, when he responds to her question with, you worship what you don't know, we worship what we know because salvation originates with the Jews. That was in verse 22. So that's no doubt a possible reason for the instructions that he gives, that you had just mentioned, not to go into a Samaritan city. Mm-hmm. But then he immediately transitions right into saying that that way of worship is no longer valid when he's talking to the woman at the well. So that downplays that significance of that knowledge that they had. So were there any other reasons why he might give instructions to avoid Samaritan cities? First, let's look at those directions that he does give that you mentioned in Matthew 5:10.
Matthew
10:5, excuse me. And if you hear that in the background, that's snowmobiles going crazy out there in the blizzard.
These 12 Jesus sent forth, giving them these orders. Do not go off into the road of the nations, and do not enter into a Samaritan city.
So let's break this down. He makes a separation between the nations and the Samaritans. So, as we said before, Samaritans weren't just some random nation. Otherwise, why even make that distinction between the two? Second, he makes a separation by mentioning the Samaritans separately from the Israelites. But at the same time, he points out a similarity between the two, Samaritans and Israelites. Now, follow me here. He says, go continually to the lost sheep of Israel. Well, why were the Israelites lost?
Well, wasn't it because of the abusive oppression and apostasy of their leaders?
Right. And didn't we just read that in 1 Kings, that's the exact same thing that happened to the 10-tribe kingdom who the Samaritans came from?
True. That is true.
So, given the Israelites are apostate as well, and that Jesus is a righteous judge who wouldn't render hypocritical judgments, why did he give those instructions? Luke 9:51 and 53 might give us a pretty good clue.
51 to 53. As the days were now coming to the full for him to be taken up, he firmly set his face to go to Jerusalem. So he sent forth messengers in advance of him, and they went their way and entered into a village of Samaritans to make preparation for him. But they did not receive him because his face was set for going to Jerusalem.
So once again, we see a conflict stemming from worship here in verse 51. Yet still, Jesus enters into a Samaritan village. And what happens? They didn't receive him because he was going to Jerusalem.
And that reminds me of how disfellowship people, after they've been disfellowshipped and they're shunned, they will sometimes shun their family back.
Yeah.
So like, you shun me, well, I'm going to shun you kind of thing.
It's an understandable reaction to abuse. Mm-hmm. I mean, just for the sake of one's own mental well-being. But back to Jesus, would he force his way into somewhere that he wasn't welcome?
No, in fact, in those same instructions, he also says that if someone doesn't receive you, he said to shake the dust off your feet.
Right. And that was to Israelites that he was speaking to there, speaking of there. So did he treat these apostate Samaritans differently, shunning them like the Pharisees did?
Well, when Jesus healed the 10 lepers, the only one that turned back and thanked him was a Samaritan.
Right. And we just read about the Samaritan woman at the well that Jesus approached. So why does Watchtower disguise this, what they would view as an apostate, as just a worldly person?
Probably because it makes them look more like the hypocritical and judgmental Israelites that shunned her than like Jesus, who was impartial.
That's definitely something to think about.
So that's just something we found interesting that we thought we would like to share. One more thought, though. What if someone claimed, well, she was born into this apostasy? She didn't go apostate herself. So that's more like she was in Christendom or children of apostates.
I see what you're saying. So who's the greatest apostate that you can possibly think of?
You mean like a human? Judas.
I mean the real apostate,
Satan.
even bigger. Yeah, and I'm talking now we're off of Jehovah's Witness a definition of apostasy, and now we're on to the real definition of apostasy, which means to turn directly against and oppose Jehovah God. So how did Jesus, given that he's our exemplar, and as we brought out in the beginning, how did he deal with that apostate?
Well, in Matthew chapter 4 is when Jesus had a conversation with Satan. And like the first 11 verses. So for verse like 3 and 4, the tempter came and said to him, "If you are a son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread." But Jesus replied, "It is written, man must live not on bread alone, but on every utterance coming forth through Jehovah's mouth."
So again, he doesn't tell him, "Oh, I can't talk to you." Instead, he does the other thing, which Brother Splain contradicted himself on, that you should prove it to yourself. And he used a scripture to reply, which the Watchtower always says to do anytime you're replying. That's how Jesus showed humility. And it goes along with, is it 1 Peter?
3:15.
Yep, to make a reply and make a defense to anybody who demands it of you. And that's what he did. He didn't say, make a reply to anybody who demands it of you, except those apostates. Mm-hmm. So here we're talking about the ultimate, true definition of apostate. And Jesus still treats him with the dignity to give him replies. Is there another one there?
The second one is when the devil took him into the holy city, stationed him upon the battlement of the temple, and said to him, "If you are a son of God, hurl yourself down, for it is written, he will give his angels a charge concerning you, and they will carry you on their hands, that you may at no time strike your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him again, "It is written, you must not put Jehovah your God to the test."
So here it is. Satan is trying to get Jesus to, how shall I say, harm himself. And Jesus doesn't even go into it at all. He just responds with a scripture instead of saying, hey, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to jump off of a wall. He goes into the scripture, ignoring Satan's, basically his core purpose there. Because let's face it, if he jumps off a wall and it's a sin, there's no angel that's going to swoop in. He's going to splat like a wet sack of concrete. But again, Jesus doesn't go into how ridiculous it is that he's going to jump off a wall. Instead, he replies with a scripture. Mm-hmm. Going right back to that point, Brother Splain contradicted himself and says, reply, figure it out for yourself whether or not it's true. So which did Jesus do? Ignore it, Satan? Or did he actually reply to him? I believe there's one more in there.
Again, the devil took him along to an unusually high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, "All these things I will give you if you fall down and do an act of worship to me." Then Jesus said to him, "Go away, Satan, for it is written, it is Jehovah your God you must worship, and it is to him alone you must render sacred service."
So here in every one of these responses, with the ultimate apostate, Jesus acknowledged the statement he made, and he gave a scriptural response. Mm-hmm. So that's how Jesus dealt with people. And again, this is an actual apostate, and they're discussing scriptural.
Spiritual things.
Spiritual things, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Not just business.
Yeah, not just business. I don't know, the last one might have been business.
So maybe it all counts. Maybe it all counts. Whatever.
But anyway, we just thought that was interesting, as Tiffany mentioned before. Maybe we'll should we toss another car video on? One of warmer days.
Oh my gosh, we've had so many storms, you guys. This has been a snowy year for us, and I just saw, I don't think it was yesterday, and then like tonight and tomorrow we're having another blizzard. It's the 8th blizzard to shut down our interstates this winter, and that's a lot for us.
It's not the worst winter we've had here. Hasn't been the coldest, hasn't been the most snowiest, but I'd say it's in the top 5. We've hit 30 below. Some winters we don't. But there's 6-foot berms out there. There's cars with the roofs that have drifts over them.
We can't even get into the farm. We have to
yard.
stop in the driveway and walk the acres if we're even can find anything. Everything's buried.
There's not something that's buried we can get to. But so we'll post a video of warmer days. Maybe the cab over.
Chad got a new toy this last fall and it was still nice out, so we'll post that maybe.
Yeah, it got snowy just after that, so we haven't had a chance to do too much work on it, but we'll post that.
Yeah.
Excellent. Just wonder how easy it'll start. Here, I can give this to you.
Oh, my feet are wet. Let me just come around.
Yeah, it needs a repaint for sure. But it'll look good going down the road.
Oops.
You got a battery in the truck?
Have a jump bag?
Yeah. Where are you heading next?
Canada.
North Gate.
What's that?
North Gate.
Northeast?
North Gate.
Northgate. Where's that?
Oh, it's like 2 hours.
Are you going to Canada?
No.
No, okay.
Montana?
No, it's in
North Dakota.
Oh, okay.
You say where? North?
Northgate.
Gate.
Northgate. How's that little pissant battery?
Think that's gonna work?
Oh yeah.
That thing usually starts our diesel.
No, we've got a battery.
Should I try?
No. Second. Alright. Probably got glow plugs, it's a diesel. Okay, go ahead. Hold on, I'm not good.
Oh, I'm cold.
Alright.
No? I'm surprised because usually it'll start our 450.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the connection. Disconnect everything, give it a second to show. All this damn electronic stuff doesn't.
Do you want a battery?
We may end up.
Just, You can just pull one out of my pickup.
No, I got one back there.
Right, exactly. I should have a brand new one back there.
Okay.
Nope. There's some connection funny thing.
Alright, one more time.
Mm-mm. Should I help?
Yeah, we can get a battery.
Okay. I got sprayed with, we got it started, but I got sprayed with, there, we got a battery in it. I got sprayed with soot. Warm up just a little bit. I'm excited to drive this. Here you go. You want to give him? You want to give him his money?
Yeah, you're just counting 1,000.
Go ahead. Look, they sprayed me. Look at this. It squirted me with the soot coming out. Did I get it on my face?
A little bit.
Yeah. What do you think?
Awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Perfect for us.
For what we're going to use it for, it's great.
You want some money?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We got some money.
It's fine.
Go ahead, Chad.
Something in your name
Do you have anything going east yet on your way back?
I'm going to Indianapolis.
I've got a car going to like New York. And I've also got another one that might be going to Texas.
I'm going to New York, but I have to go first to North Carolina to pick up mine because I bought a car for my parents.
Okay. Do you have any other ones coming up back up this way, or?
Well, what car is it?
I've got
It's a 46 panel.
a 46 panel, no running. It's a tower.
It'd be something you'd stick right on the front, you know?
And then I've got another one. The other one's a 37 Chevy going to Odessa, Texas.
Going to Massachusetts up there in North Carolina. But we're in New York.
Well, he's actually from Maine, but he said he'd drive down to
New York or
New York.
Healing.
New York. I think
Do
you
you-
can come to
Do you have a card?
Massachusetts.
That's closer than New York even. Yeah.
I'll let me message him. I'll text him. And I've got
Okay.
your number, so
Yeah, you text me because I'm going there and then I'm going to do back. Because I have 2 cars already.
what do you charge to go to Massachusetts? for?
I'm going to ask my dispatch when I listen.
Okay. What do I need to do here?
Store.
Oh, okay. Yeah, whatever.
So when you came up here, did a lot of people ask you about that? Yeah, I bet they did.
Everybody was looking.
Kind of a rare thing, yeah.
Now we're excited. We've got it.
47 on your rates.
I don't know if you saw. Did you come in from the
The east?
So I don't know if you saw on the right-hand side next to Dollar General, we've got a couple of these things.
We got a 41 and a 47, the original. One of them has never left the state. Yeah.
Yep.
Alright. Yeah,
What was your name?
Vasily. Vasily.
Vasily.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Vasily.
Yeah, I will text you. I don't know if my dispatch
That one in Texas, we kind of need a quote for pretty quick. I
Well,
think,
he's
right?
not going to that way. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Appreciate it. So hey, you want to give me some driving instructions real quick?
That's exciting. Oh, cool. We need to park it not there, because the birds will just crap all over it. Now we're in it. Try not to get all those words in there just so you can see, but
Brakes are kind of squishy. They definitely need to let out. Turbo sounds badass.
you gotta go down. You gotta go down to show Ken. You have to.
Kind of rattly, needs some work. An air horn too.
Don't blow the air horn.
Said it needs one. I don't think we have
Oh.
one. No idea how much fuel it has in it.
We don't have to leave town. Just that was Ken.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. You gonna go back?
Yeah. Okay, working.
Yeah, they're working.
I thought at least there was a window back there. There's nothing back there. No window at all.
I don't want to park it under the tree.
Swing by Bob's.
Yeah.
There it is. Pretty cool. Already got all the logos off that were from the previous owner. Pretty cool.